Marvel's Eternals wasn't very well received when it came to theaters. So it happens that I am part of the very small percentage of people who actually enjoyed the movie. As a fan of the film, I have recognized that the movie is indeed flawed. And no, the flaw was not the diversity. It has nothing to do with the woke elements of this movie. In fact, the flaw of this movie is getting a really dense story and putting it all in a single film. But what if the story itself would have been split into two different films, one taking place in the past and the other one taking place in the present? Hey, it's Maverick, and I'm here to tell you what I would have done better if I had made the movie Eternals. Now, the consequences of having a film with a very dense story is that not many scenes that are meant to have an impact will become very weak compared to their potential. Since the story is going to take up most of the movie, your characters are not going to have enough time to be able to be developed. And because of this, the connection and importance to the characters will feel either forced or just not very compelling to the audience. Having a really dense story in a movie is also going to take away from time to develop your concepts. Eternals itself is a movie with very high concepts that need to be developed, and a concept with not enough development is just not going to be able to be conveyed. The first hypothetical Eternals movie will take place in the past. The Domo pretty much going into Earth, the Eternals arriving at Mesopotamia, and pretty much introducing themselves to the early civilizations and pretty much like establishing themselves as like these beings are helping the early civilizations progress throughout history. In this hypothetical film, you'll be able to manage having the deviants as the main villains. You'll be able to have, I don't know, maybe a type of deviant that evolved a little bit too much from the other deviants. I don't know, maybe actually have Crow as the main villain in this movie. Crow himself is actually a very tough villain by himself in the original Eternals, and he'll be the perfect villain in this movie. With this amount of runtime, you'll also be able to develop the main characters, in this case, the Eternals themselves. You'll be able to have points like why Kingo looks up to Icarus. You'll be able to have an actual compelling relationship of Icarus with Cersei. You'll be able to show why Icarus has these tendencies to want to be the leader of the Eternals. You'll be able to develop so many things. You'll be able to develop Sprite herself. The ending of the hypothetical Eternals movie would be kind of simple, but it would have more impact. Because obviously you'd have the Eternals defeat Crow, so now they're able to complete their mission, they're able to pretty much save human civilizations, and eventually it's gonna lead to that scene where we saw in the original Eternals where they split up. My vision of the ending is seeing Icarus break up with Cersei. Now this would have such a big role in the next movie because at this point we would have Ajax already have told Icarus about the emergence. But in the movie, we would have no idea. The audience would be completely oblivious about this. My vision of the second Eternals would be something more or less like this. The start of the movie would be with humans. It will not start with Eternals, it will start with simple humans, some workers inside the snowy ice parts of Alaska. And they find this iceberg type of thing inside a cave, and they see that inside it there's this black mass. And they notice that the iceberg itself is already melting. And then you would see the iceberg and a lot of deviants coming out of there, and they would start eating the people, the workers in the ice. And then you would get to see the camera pan up to a hill, and you would see that there's somebody watching from way above. Somebody or something. Part of the mystery is that you're not supposed to know who it is. But as we've known in the first Eternal movie, this is actually Icarus. But in my vision, we were going to leave it as a mystery. The movie itself would continue to Cersei. It would introduce Cersei in the normal human world, and we would actually spend a good time with her. Spending time with other humans, spending time with Dane Whitman himself, until eventually it gets to that scene where we have in the movie where she's walking with Sprite and Dane, and then eventually one of the deviants comes out of the water and they have to fight him, and eventually Icarus gets with them, and the movie would pretty much go the same way. we would also have enough time to be able to develop the Eternals now, because from the past to the present, they're very different people. They're not the same stoic, godlike figures. They're people now, they're actual humans. And we would actually have to spend some good time with them to be able to develop them as humans. Towards the ending, it'll be a little bit different, with the scene where Icarus regrets fighting against the Eternals. In my vision, it will be more emotional. We would have Icarus telling Cersei that he cannot stay, and Cersei tries to make him stay, telling him that she cannot lose him again, and ultimately seeing Icarus levitate up looking at Cersei, and finally turning around and flying into the sun. The question now is, what would be the difference if these changes would have been made for the movie? Both of the movies would have a lot of development because it would build and it would benefit from the anticipation of the first movie. Years of anticipation would build tension between the audience and the film. The twist of Icarus knowing the Eternals' true purpose would also impact more, since it is a mystery in the first movie, making payoff along with the mystery of why Icarus left Cersei. The overall family reunion feel would feel so much more exciting, getting to see familiar good characters again, characters that the audience has been familiar with for a year or two more or less. And the death of Icarus would feel so much more tragic, because now instead of being another person dying, it is now a dear character falling into a tragedy. Overall, the movie would really have the tone that the movie wanted, the endgame feel, the tone of a movie where you will most likely lose everything or die for a bigger cause than just yourself. Eternals truly had it all. A good story, good characters, good cast, and a very good director, to be honest. Sadly, Marvel did not manage Eternals the way they should have. The concept of superior beings pushing early civilizations to evolve is a beautiful, complex idea. The concept of these stoic champions of the people attempting to have a human life is something not many would dare to try, and I'm all in for that concept. I am Maverick from the Heroes Table, and I'll see ya on the next video.